Matt Yeoman is a founding partner in the architecture and design practice of Buckley Gray Yeoman. He says his aim is to achieve a complex simplicity in design. He believes that even the most difficult design constraints can be overcome with clear, simple thought in order to achieve elegant design solutions which are practical and cost effective. But Matt, your website also says that you are agents of opportunity. So do you see COVID-19 as a threat or as an opportunity? Well, it's clearly a threat, but you also see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, clearly it's both. It is a threat, obviously, to human life, but it's a threat to the economy. I think if you'd asked me that back in March or April, I think we were all really very, very concerned, and who knows how the economy may or may not recover. But yeah, it's definitely been a threat from that perspective. But I think, like all architects, we're always internally optimistic, and I think it's been a huge opportunity to reset a little bit, to reevaluate, just to pause in our lives. And so it's both, but I think overall it's probably has been a bit of a clean slate, and let's see what happens after this.
So tell me a bit about some of the projects that you've got going through the office at the moment.
We've got a very interesting mix at the moment, as we always have. But it's been quite interesting. We have a number of residential and mixed use projects outside London, which has been a growing trend for pre-COVID for us. But we have two great projects for First Base. One in that is on site currently in Brighton, which is about 146 homes, both mixture of PRS and for sale, but also combined with about 160,000 square feet of workspace and leisure space. So that's on site in Brighton. And then we have another scheme with them in Cambridge, which is going through the planning process at the moment, which is a similar mix of size and has a great park at the heart of it. So the mixed use projects are going really well. A couple of other residential schemes at the moment. We just got planning for a scheme for Regal Homes this last week, which includes hotel and housing in Hackney. So from the residential mixed use side, the work is going really well, really interesting. And here's a shot for you. Europe has been very strong for us pre-Brexit. We've never been a practice that's chased international work, but a lot of our clients have gone out into Europe, and we've schemes in Madrid and in Milan, in Belgium, in Barcelona, as well as a hotel scheme in Moscow. So our tentacles are spreading, and I think closer to home, probably what you would notice a little bit more for is our workplace projects in London. We've still got those going on. We have just completed one, which is Panagram on Goswell Road. We have another scheme in Clerkenwell, which is on site at the moment for general projects, which is it's called Technique, and it's a hybrid between a gallery space and a workplace. And then we have a big scheme in Canary Wharf, which is YY London, which is on site at the moment. So still a very broad brush mix of projects going on, Peter.
So that scheme in Canary Wharf is a retrofit scheme, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's the Reuters building. As you come out of Canary Wharf Tube and you look, it's straight in front of you, you'll probably know it because of the ticker tape that runs around the front of the building. And we looked long and hard, as you'd imagine our client did, about whether there was an opportunity to put a new build there. But you probably know us well enough by now that if we think we can reuse a building, then we will. So we're stripping off all of the cladding back to the concrete frame. We're adding 3 new floors to the building and redesigning the outside of the building entirely, plus reconfiguring the core. So I think we're saving a huge amount of embodied carbon by doing that. Similarly, 77 Coleman Street, which we finished a few months ago, we did the same thing there. So it is a retention of the existing frame and then new elements all around it.
As you said, you've done a lot of offices over the years, and in an interview with David Taylor at New London Weekly some time ago. He was asking lots of questions about what the future of the office might be. So what's your opinion now? Has it changed over the period of the pandemic? And is everyone still going to move to the country and work from their garden shed? Or are they going to be so desperate to meet other humans that city centres will be thronged again?
I've got an interesting perspective on this, because I think you may well know, but I moved to the country about 15 years ago, and I had built an office outside of the house, and so I was sort of slightly ahead of my time, and spent 3-4 days in London, and then 1 or 2 days in the garden shed. And I think the reality is that people want to work near home, not necessarily from home. And I know, again, putting another hat on as a father of 2 daughters, one is 18 and one is 20. I mean, they are desperate to get to the city, and the city is not just about work, is it? I mean, it's art, it's culture, it's meeting people. That's what we all miss, and that's what the city gives us, and the vibrancy. So I'm, despite being a work from home person, I don't think that's going to be the future forever. I think the flexibility. What I think is going to be very interesting is how London competes with other cities for that. I mean, we have a Bristol studio, have done for a number of years. I mentioned the work we're doing in Brighton, and I mentioned the work in Cambridge. I think those, to name a few, but those cities offer art, they offer culture, they offer an identity, which at one point we all sort of, got sucked towards the mothership of London. And I think it's going to be interesting to know how London as a city deals with that. But to answer your question in terms of the future of the office, I'm still a big fan of the office. I think it depends on where you are in your generation, and I'm sure if you're a senior member of a team, you can probably work from home quite happily and quite enjoy it. If you're a younger member of the team, I think you're desperate to get into the throng and the cut and thrust of the studio. We had this lockdown 2 and lockdown 3 has been interesting because or rather one we were all sort of knuckled down and desperate to get back, and then we had a flavor of it, didn't we? We had a flavor of getting back into the studio over the summer, and we really did enjoy it, and there was a real buzz. And I think this has become harder now because we want to get back. So I don't think offices have gone at all. I think they're just going to be more flexible, and maybe we're not going to cram as many people in. I heard a great phrase that we're going to move from battery hens to free range.
Just thinking about the fact you're working in Europe and office, so lots of young people, has the mix of the office changed much as a result of Brexit, or do you have a very multinational workforce?
We do have a very multinational workforce. I think we've got something like 20 nationalities in the office, so we do have a very eclectic mix. I have to say, we have not seen the run for home yet. People, if they're able to stay, have stayed, and maybe there isn't the people traveling. I mean, clearly with COVID, there's not the people who are traveling around the world in the way that they were. My own personal view is I think there's a pent-up demand for that, and once everybody gets the opportunity safely to do so, they will be doing it again. And we've always welcomed that eclectic mix in the studio, and I don't think it's going to disappear. I really don't. We haven't seen it anyway. We haven't seen that happening.
Good. Now, you've got a clever bit of graphics on your website that uses the initials to spell out words starting with BGY. And I was just interested that one of them was bicycle, glider, yacht. And those are the 3 bits of kit that architects often hold in high esteem. So what is it about them, do you think, that attracts them and actually attracts the architects more generally?
It's good. It's a really good question, and I think it comes down to a few things. First of all, it comes down to your opening line that I've used many times through my career, is the complex simplicity. If you take a yacht or you take a glider, to some degree a bicycle, there's a simple premise behind what its task is, but to achieve that against the, less so perhaps in a bicycle, but against the sort of 3-dimensional nature of the unpredictable conditions of nature it's quite a complex piece of machinery. So I think we all enjoy the elegance of those devices and those objects against against the mother nature, so to speak. But of course, the other great thing about them is they require no mechanical propulsion, do they? As such, there's no engines. I mean, yes, a yacht may well have one, but it doesn't really need it ultimately. So all three devices allow you to travel around and to explore the world. People have explored the world on very elegant, simple machines doing a complex process, or potentially having to deal with a complex set of issues, I think. So there's that aspect of it, and invariably they're very beautiful objects, aren't they, in some way, shape, or form? So I think that warms to us. Less so, for me personally, less so the sort of the machine for, the home is a machine for living in. I don't necessarily think the high tech movement necessarily has pushed us in the direction of loving those machines. I think it's more the beauty and the simplicity of them.
Yeah, well, maybe it's that architects are fundamentally green, really, and are really excited by that way of being able to travel without needing mechanical support. Matt, thank you very much for your comments, and I look forward to meeting up sometime in the flesh.
Yes, let's hope so, Peter. Very good to see you.
Thanks a lot.